Okay. That being said, prosecutor, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Judge. The state calls Judith Link.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Just watch your step as you're coming up to the witness chair there. If you don't mind, could you put your left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand for me? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, once you're comfortable and seated. It's a heavy chair, sorry. If you could state your full name for the record and spell your last name, please.
Judith Link, L-I-N-K.
All right. Prosecutor, when you're ready.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Could you tell us where you work?
I work for the New Jersey State Police in the Office of Forensic Sciences, and that is located in the Central Regional Laboratory in Hamilton, New Jersey.
Okay. And approximately how long have you worked for the Office of Forensic Science?
22 years.
And specifically, what is your current title or role?
My title right now is a Forensic Scientist 3, and I work in the Quality Assurance Unit. And there I am the Health and Safety Officer for 5 laboratories. I conduct audits for all the laboratories. I review manuals and policies and procedures, and I peer review some of the trace evidence units paperwork.
Now, have you always worked in the Quality Assurance Unit at the State Police?
Yeah.
Okay. What was your role prior to that assignment?
For 16 years, I was in the trace evidence unit.
And what does the Trace Evidence Unit do within the State Police?
The trace evidence unit analyzes trace evidence, which is very small evidence, typically hairs and fibers, footwear impressions, low explosives, glass, and gunshot residues.
You said that currently you're a Forensic Scientist 3. Can you explain what that represents and kind of how you got there?
I could start, when I started, I was a Forensic Scientist 1, and that gave me the responsibilities to analyze evidence. A Forensic Scientist 2, did I say 2? A Forensic Scientist 1 is when I started. The 2 gave me the opportunity to train others in the field that I was trained in. And now that I'm a Forensic Scientist 3, I can supervise others.
Maybe not currently, but at all times as a forensic scientist, both 1 and let's say 2, were you involved in the testing of small items of evidence and trace evidence?
Yes, I was.
And just before I ask you about your educational background, I just want to approach and show you what's been marked as S424 for identification. I'm going to ask you to take a look at that and let me know if you recognize it.
Yes, that is my CV or resume.
Okay, does that document, your educational background?
Yes, it does.
Does it also document your training and experience at the State Police and otherwise?
Yes.
Does it document trainings that you've underwent and presentations potentially that you've done?
Yes.
Okay. Now, can you give us the benefit of your educational background?
I earned a BS, Bachelor of Science in Biology from Trenton State College in 1988, and I earned a Master's of Administration from Fairleigh Dickinson University in 2008.
Okay. So going back to your Bachelor of Science in Biology, that was, what year did you complete that at Trenton State?
1988.
Okay. Now, was there a point in time thereafter that you began to work at the State Police?
Yes.
Okay, and that was what year?
To the end of 2003.
Okay, did you utilize your BS in biology prior to joining the State Police?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and what did you do and where?
If I may
Sure.
reference, it's been a long time. Let's see where not everything is on here, but I worked for Johnson & Johnson, and we called it the Robert Wood Johnson Pharmaceutical Research Institute. That's what it was called back then, from 1993 to 96. And I left there and I went to Georgia and worked at Solvay Pharmaceuticals.
Now, I'm going to draw your attention back to, I think you said late 2003. That's when you began at the State Police Lab?
Yes.
Okay. Now, your initial assignment there, what was that?
I was assigned to work in the trace evidence unit, and my initial training was in glass analysis and gunshot residue analysis, and then I moved on to low explosive analysis and footwear and tire impression analysis.
Okay, now, I think it's fair to say you're here today to talk about gunshot residue analysis, correct?
Correct.
Okay, can you tell us about the training that you received with respect to gunshot residue analysis?
Sure. The training took about a year, and I was under direct supervision by my supervisor. When I was comfortable with the work in the laboratory, I had to complete 10 cases on my own, and I had required readings to complete. And after that, I took 2 written tests and passed them both, and I passed 2 laboratory tests. I passed a moot court, and then I was deemed an expert in gunshot residue analysis.
And that was by your office, specifically New Jersey State Police Office of Forensic Scientists?
Yes.
Okay. Now, once you had that kind of qualification in-house, did you begin to perform gunshot residue analysis testing and other types of trace evidence testing?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And if you could potentially approximate how many cases you've worked on with respect to gunshot residue analysis, could you do that?
About 180 cases.
Now, have you ever during the course of your career gone to additional trainings, both inside the state police and outside the state police Office of Forensic Science?
Yes, I took a week-long course given to me by the FBI, forget what year, and that was it for the training, the FBI training and the state police training.
Now, as part of your work in the State Police Office of Forensic Science, specifically Trace Evidence Unit, did you have to undergo any proficiency tests during the course of your career?
No, absolutely. Every year, all scientists take a proficiency test in their discipline.
Now, during your time within Trace Evidence Unit, I think you testified that you did approximately 180 cases involving gunshot residue analysis. Did you ever have an opportunity to have to review the work of others within the unit?
Yes, we call that peer review.
Okay. Now, is any case or every case within the Trace Evidence Unit, is it actually peer reviewed by another qualified scientist?
Every case is peer reviewed and also administrative reviewed, yes.
Now, have you ever been involved in, I think I mentioned it, but have you ever been involved in giving or assisting in presentations with respect to gunshot residue analysis?
Yes. I had given 2 presentations on gunshot residue analysis. Every year we have symposiums for police officers, and we invite them in. So I gave 2 presentations, and then I also was involved in the FBI road school class. We call it the GSR road school, and they came to our facility to teach the ballistics unit, the officers in the state police, a little bit about what the scientists do in the laboratory and how they analyze gunshot residues.
Now, to that point, I think you said that at times you've been involved in instruction of officers in the ballistics unit, correct?
Correct.
Now, have you, during the course of your time as someone who analyzes items for gunshot residue, have you gotten or received information about how the ballistics unit operates?
Yes, we work closely together.
Now, generally speaking, are you familiar with the manner in which gunshot residue can actually get onto an item?
Yes.
And just generally speaking, could you explain your understanding of how that works?
Sure. The little that I know, as the firearm is fired, the trigger is pulled, I forgot the term, the primer is struck, the primer cap in the cartridge, and it starts to burn. And that in turn will start the gunpowder inside the cartridge to burn, and that will build up a lot of pressure in there and pushes out the bullet, and out of the muzzle will also come gunshot residues, which include gunpowder, burned gunpowder, unburned gunpowder, some lead from bullet or copper also comes out of there, and it comes out kind of like a cone shape. So the closer the target is to the weapon, the tighter the pattern is on the target.
So you generally become familiar with materials that would be expelled from a firearm during the course of discharge?
Yes.
Okay. Now, during the course of your career, have you had the opportunity to testify in Superior Court in the state of New Jersey?
I have.
And during the course of those testimonies, have you ever been offered as an expert in the field of gunshot residue analysis?
Yes.
Do you recall approximately how many times?
About 18 times.
Okay. And has that been in one county or more than one county in the state of New
From
Jersey?
multiple counties in the state.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, the state would offer Judith Link as an expert in the field of gunshot residue analysis.
Any voir dire?
No, I don't think so, Judge. Thank you.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we haven't done this in a while. So I'm going to give you this charge again just to remind you. As a general rule, witnesses can only testify to facts known by them. This rule ordinarily does not permit to be received as evidence the opinion of a witness who is not testifying as an expert. However, an exception to this rule exists in the case of an expert witness who may give their opinion as to any matter in which they are versed, which is material to the case. In legal terminology, an expert witness is a witness who has some special knowledge, skill, experience, or training that is not possessed by the ordinary juror, and who thus may be able to provide assistance to the jury in understanding the evidence presented and determine the facts in this case. You're not bound by such expert's opinion, but you should consider the opinion and give it the weight to which you deem it is entitled, whether that be great or slight, or you may reject it. In examining an expert's opinion, you may consider the reasons given for it, if any, and you may also consider the qualifications and credibility of the expert. It is always within the special function of the jury to determine whether the facts on which the answer or testimony of an expert is based actually exist. The value or weight of the opinion of the expert is dependent upon, and is no stronger than, the facts on which it is based. In other words, the probative value of the opinion will depend upon whether, from all of the evidence in the case, you find those facts are true. You may, in fact, determine from the evidence in the case that the facts that form the basis of the opinion are true, not true, or true in part only. And in light of the finding, you should decide what effect such determination has upon the weight to be given to the opinion of the expert. Your acceptance or rejection of the expert's opinion will depend, therefore, to some extent, on your finding as to the truth of the facts relied upon. You and you alone are the sole fact finders in this case. You must be persuaded solely by the evidence presented at trial when determining whether the state has satisfied its burden. As the sole judges of the facts, you are to determine the credibility of the various witnesses, as well as the weight to be afforded to their testimony to determine whether the state has proved beyond a reasonable doubt all the elements of the charged crime. So with that being said, I will accept this witness as an expert in gunshot residue analysis. Prosecutor, go ahead.
Thank you, Judge.
Sure.
Ms. Lynn, can you tell us how evidence is accepted into the offices of forensic scientists at the state police?
Sure. The evidence comes into the evidence receiving department, and it is given, the case is given a unique laboratory number, and each piece of evidence is given its own number and barcode. So the barcodes are then placed on all the packaging of the different pieces of evidence, and then the evidence is scanned into our laboratory information management system, fancy way for saying computer system, and then it's stored in the vault, waiting for the scientists to pick it up.
Now, when you talk about the scientists picking up, was there an occasion with respect to this case where you went and obtained evidence from that vault?
Can you repeat the question?
I'm sorry, that was a bad question. Let me just first show you what they marked as S425 for identification. Show them, counsel. I'm just going to show you. It's been marked as S425 for identification. Do you recognize what that is?
Yes, I do.
And what is it?
This is an evidence receipt that is created when the evidence comes into the evidence receiving department, and the case is created with its unique laboratory number, and information on this evidence receipt tells me what evidence to pick up when I go to the vault to pick it up.
Does it also help you or guide you in what, like, analysis to perform?
Yes,
Okay. Now, S425, does that have a date on it?
it has a received date, yes.
Okay, and what was that date?
November 30th, 2018.
Okay, and does it indicate a specific item?
Yes.
And what item is that?
It is item number 27, which is a brown paper bag containing a black hooded jacket.
Okay. Now, based upon your work in this case, was item 27 the item that you actually reviewed and analyzed for purposes of gunshot residue?
Yes, it was.
Now, based upon work that you did in this case, did you ultimately draft a report?
Yes, I wrote a report.
Okay. Now, as part of your work in this case and in drafting that report, did you also keep notes?
I kept notes also, yes.
Is that customary with respect to your analysis?
It sure is, yes.
I'm just going to show you first what's been marked as S426. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And how do you recognize it?
This is my laboratory report I wrote, and I recognize it because my signature is at the bottom and the laboratory number is at the top there.
Now, the laboratory number from S426, does it correspond, or is it the same as the one from S425?
Yes, it is C18-10138.
Okay. And the report marked S426, does it cover your analysis of item number 27, State Police item number 27?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Now, I'm also going to show you what's been marked as S432. Do you recognize what that is?
I do.
And what is it?
It is a copy of my case notes.
Okay. And how many pages are that, if you could tell us? Is that?
They're all here.
Okay.
20 pages.
Okay. And could you just generally tell us what's included in your notes?
Sure. The laboratory case numbers at the top, and as I go through my analysis, I document everything I'm doing. And I also take photographs as I do my analysis, and they are included in here also. And I have some other, during my analysis, I make up transparencies, which is a clear plastic piece of paper that I put on top of some of the analyses that I do, and I document that in that way, and there's copies of that in my notes also.
Okay. Now, just show you what's been marked as S299. Now, do you recognize this item?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and how do you recognize it?
Well, if I compare the pictures to my notes, I recognize the jacket and my initials are on the packaging, the brown paper bag that it came in.
Okay, and is there also a yellow sticker on one of the bags within S299?
There is the barcode that goes with item number 27.
And is that a sticker that is a property of the New Jersey State Police?
Yes, that is put on the packaging when it comes into the evidence receiving department with a unique laboratory number and the item number 27.
And the unique laboratory number on the yellow sticker from S299, is it the same as those on S432 and S426?
Yes, it is.
As what?
C1810138,
Okay, and it indicates number 27, correct?
number 27.
Now, once this item, number 27, comes into your possession, can you tell us the first steps that you perform with that item?
Sure. Once I pick it up from the vault, I take it back to my workstation and I spread out a big piece of white butcher paper and I open the package and I do an inventory and make sure what's in the package is what's on my evidence receipt, and I document that, and then I do a visual examination on the item. And in that, I look for, well, first I document what's on the brand, what's on the tag, any size, any fiber content, and then I continue on with my visual examination, and I'm looking for any defects, any holes, anything unusual, and then I index holes that I find, which means, number one, I give them all a letter, beginning with the letter A, and so on, and then I index them, meaning I measure from the hole to a seam or to the bottom of the jacket. Just, it's kind of mapping out the holes so I can find them more easily later. And, excuse me, and then I take photographs.
So you talk about the visual examination includes just observations visually of item number 27?
Yes,
And it also includes, like you said, measurements of not the holes, the size of the hole, but where it is in relation to the item of clothing.
I do measure the holes also.
Okay, you do. Now, on page 1 of your notes, do you document that indexing of the holes?
Yes,
And do you have, or do they reflect an assignment of, let's say, letter A to this hole and letter B to this hole?
yes, A to H.
A to H, so that's the number of holes we're talking about, correct? And also those measurements, are they depicted on page 1 of your notes?
They are.
Okay. Now, I think we'll get into it a little bit more in a minute, but does your visual inspection also include use of an infrared camera?
Yes, I use an infrared camera.
What's the purpose of the infrared camera?
We use the infrared camera on dark clothing because what the IR, the infrared, will do is visually lighten the fabric. So as I look through the camera, the jacket will look white instead of black. And that will help me find any residues that are on there, or any potential residues. And then if I find anything, I will take a picture of those residues.
So we talk about looking at it, measuring it, labeling the holes, taking photography, and also taking infrared photography.
Yes,
That's essentially all part of step 1.
the visual examination.
Okay. Now, is there also thereafter, and we'll talk specifically about it, but what's the second step after a visual examination?
The second step is the microscopic examination. I haven't done this in so long, sorry. The microscopic examination, where I will take the item and put it under a microscope, and I concentrate on the hole and the area around the hole, and I'm looking for singeing and burning of fibers, any metals that could come from a bullet. I am looking for gunpowder that could be partially burned or whole gunpowder pieces.
Okay. Now, the last step is what? The third step in the process?
That's the chemical examination.
Okay. So generally, you've just described the kind of the three steps of your determination with respect to whether or not any gunshot residue exists on any item, but in this case specifically number 27?
Yes,
Okay. Now, you talked about taking photographs, correct?
yes.
Okay. And I'm going to refer you to your notes that are in front of you, if I could. If I could just, sorry. That'd be S432, correct? I'm going to direct you to page 4 of your notes. Do you recognize what that is?
Yes.
And what is that?
Page 4 is a picture of the front of the entire jacket.
Okay. And is there another overall photograph?
On page 5 is the same photo, but I added documentation of where the holes are,
Okay. And page 6 is what?
and that is the overall back of the jacket.
Okay. Page 7?
Page 7 is the overall back of the jacket with some of my notations about where holes are.
Okay. And page 7?
Page 8?
Sorry, page 8. Apologize.
Let's see, page 8 is the back of the hood, which is a close-up of hole A and hole B.
Okay. And are there additional photographs moving forward?
Yes.
And just before we get into the details, do the photographs that are depicted within S432, I mean, do you recognize them?
Yes, I do.
And do they adequately and accurately reflect the photographs that you took of that item as part of your analysis?
Yes.
Okay, and the pictures that are in S432, they are of S299 here, correct?
Item number 27.
Yes, item number 27, sorry, yeah. So at this point, I'm just going to publish, for purposes of explanation, some of the photos. I'm going to go to our notes. I'm going to go to page 4 of the witness's notes. All right? No objection. Just so we understand, I'm going to run you through a few of the pictures you took. Could you just explain what we're looking at here?
This is the overall front of the jacket, item number 27.
Okay. And page 5? What do we see here?
This is the same photograph, but I have added notations about where a few of the holes are and left shoulder seam, and these are the things that I would use for my indexing.
Okay. And page 5 of the notes? 6, sorry.
And this is the overall back of the jacket.
Notes page 7?
And this is the same photograph with some of my notations about where some of the holes are.
Okay. And page 8?
And this is a close-up of the back of the hood with showing hole A and B. Sorry, the scans are not great.
Okay.
The pictures honestly look much better.
And page 9? What do we see here?
And this is the right side of the hood showing a close-up of hole C.
Okay. And did you document observations you made of hole C in your notes, specifically on page 1?
Yes, and during the visual examination.
And we'll get into it a little bit more later, but was there something specific about the nature of that hole that you documented during the visual observation?
Hole C is a classic textbook stellate tear, or what we call a cruciform tear.
Well, I'll have you explain that in a bit. Could I have page 10? What do we see here?
This is the top of the hood showing hole D.
And notes page 11?
And this is the front of the hood showing hole E.
And notes page 12?
The front of the hood, a close-up of hole F.
Now, in that picture, there's some red. During the course of your visual observation, or at least note-taking regarding your visual observations, did you take note of any potential staining on the jacket or observations of same?
Looking at my notes, yes, I wrote my notes, possible blood throughout the front, back, and hood.
Now, just to be clear, though, your job here was not to test that to determine whether or not that actually was blood, correct?
No.
It was just an observation visually that you made. Okay. Can I have page 13? What do we see there?
And this is the front of the jacket, showing hole H and G.
All right. Now, you talked about earlier how at some point you utilized an infrared camera, correct?
Correct.
Can I have slide, page 14 of the notes? Can you explain what we see here?
Sure. It's not the greatest scan of my photograph, but this is a standard. It is something that we created. Actually, the ballistics unit created it for me. It's a piece of black fabric, and they shot it pretty close up, so there's a lot of residues on it, and I use it to test the camera, my IR camera. Before I use it, I look at this standard, we call it gunshot residue standard, using the IR camera to ensure that the camera is in fact working, and I see that the dark fabric has lightened and the gunshot residues are dark and visible.
So just to be clear, what's depicted in your notes, page 14, that is not evidence from this case, correct?
Correct, that is not evidence.
That, as you said, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's a standard utilized just to make sure the camera's working properly.
That is correct.
Okay, and was it?
And it was, yes.
Can I have the next page, page 15 of the notes? What do we see here?
This is a scan of the photograph I took using the IR camera, and it's hole D. And I took this photograph because I saw possible bullet wipe, which was enhanced, and you could see that as a ring around the hole. You don't see the whole ring, but if you see the bottom of the ring, there's a black ring around the hole, which could be bullet wipe, which means a passage of a bullet, and the bullet, whatever was on it, wiped off and just left that ring.
Okay, so when you took this photo because of something that you saw visually, is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, and how many observations, if you recall, or how many photos did you take with the IR camera as a result of your observations?
I believe there were 2.
Okay. Can I have notes, page 16? And what do we see here?
And this is a photograph taken with the IR camera, and it shows hole G and H, but at H, I see a possible bullet wipe there also.
Based upon this and this alone, do you make any determinations with respect to those holes that you just discussed?
This is just the beginning. I just use this just to help me find any residues, but I would not conclude anything with this.
Okay. Now, visually, though, with the holes, you obviously labeled A through H of holes that were in item number 27 from the state police, correct?
Correct.
Now, just by seeing those holes and based upon your training and experience, did you draw any conclusions just like with respect to the nature of the holes?
With my experience, I could say that these were caused by the passage of a bullet.
Now, as far as like entrance versus exit, do you draw any conclusions like that?
No.
Okay. Now, once you've taken the photographs, you've taken the IR photographs, is there a point in time when you move on to a microscopic examination of the actual holes?
Yes, that would be my next step.
Okay, now, despite anything you might have seen visually, in A through H. Do you do that with each of those holes?
Yes, each hole will get a microscopic examination.
And that would be regardless of what you saw or you didn't see visually?
That is correct. Mhm.
And also with regard to what you saw or didn't see on an infrared camera?
Yes.
Okay. Now, can you just explain for us, and I know you did it a little bit briefly, but just how you go about utilizing the microscope to analyze the holes?
Sure. I put the item underneath the microscope, and I focus on each hole one at a time and the area right around the hole. And the microscopic examination, I'm looking for any ripping and tearing. I look closely at the fibers at the hole. I'm looking for melted fibers from the heat of the bullet going through. Sometimes it melts the fibers. And I'm also looking for any metals that come out of the weapon or come off of the bullet. Sometimes a bullet will break and leave shards of metal. And I'm looking for bullet white, which is a ring around the hole, as you can probably see here. And sometimes it's visible, sometimes it's not. May I refer to my notes to see if I'm missing anything? Oh, and gunpowder, of course. So I'm looking for particles of gunpowder. They don't always completely burn. So if the target is close enough to the weapon, it will land on the fabric. So I'm looking for gunpowder particles also.
Okay. Now, regarding the microscopic examination that you did with holes A through H, now, did you draw any, or did you observe anything significant with respect to any of those holes?
Referring to my notes, holes A, B, D through H, I did not find the things that I was looking for: singeing, burning, ripping, tearing. There's no bullet white that I saw under the microscope, and I did not see any gunpowder. Hole C, I noted that it was a cruciform tear, and I did not see any singeing and burning, no bullet white, no gunpowder was observed.
Now, did that mean to you at that point in time that A, B, and then D through H were not holes caused by bullets or something else?
No, the microscopic examination does not indicate that it was not caused by a bullet.
Now, the one letter you left out was hole C, correct?
Well, A, B, D through H, and then I mentioned C was the cruciform tear.
Okay. Now, so with respect to hole C, I think what you just said is that there is something of significance to you based upon what you've done thus far, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Now, that being said, the holes where you didn't see anything significant, did you just stop your analysis at that time?
No, there was more.
Now, the next step would be, as you said earlier, the chemical analysis, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, did you do that with respect to A through H, every hole?
Yes.
Okay. And is there a first step in that process or a first test in that process?
Yes, there are 3 tests,
Okay.
and the first test is called the Grice test or the grease test. And for that test, I'm looking for nitrites, like chemical nitrites that come out of the weapon. And you want me to explain how I do that test?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I take the item and I lay it down and I spray it with acetic acid. And then I take a piece of paper which has been specially treated with a special chemical, and I iron that on top of it. And when I peel it back, if there was any nitrites on that item, I would see an orange coloring, orange speckling, or an orange cloud. And that would indicate nitrates were on that jacket from a weapon. And I did that for all the holes.
Okay. Now, with respect to that grease test, you said you did with all the holes. Did you note any of the holes that presented with that orange color that you were looking for?
Reading from my notes, hole A and B were negative, hole C was positive for nitrites, D through G were negative, and hole H was positive for nitrites.
Okay. So you have positive for nitrates for hole C and hole H, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and again, we still have your notes, page 16, up on the screen in front of you, correct?
Page 16, yes.
Okay, and does that depict hole H in that infrared photo?
Yes.
Now, given the positives for C and H on the grease test, did you continue with the second test still for all the items, all the holes?
Yes, I did.
Okay, what is that second chemical test that you utilize?
The second test is called the dithioxamide test. We call it DTO for short. And that is testing for copper. So typically, with a copper jacketed bullet, we would see copper on the clothing. Not all the time, but sometimes.
Okay, and how do you go about performing that DTO test?
So the DTO test, I take a piece of white paper again, we call it white filter paper, and we spray it with ammonium hydroxide. And then that gets ironed onto the item of clothing. And then when it's peeled off, it's sprayed with HCl, hydrochloric acid, and then a solution of DTO. And what I'm looking for is any green color. So the green color would indicate copper was on the jacket. And hole A through H, it was negative, so I did not find any copper.
Okay, so none of the holes exhibited that green color or the presence of copper.
Correct.
Now, with respect to the third step in the chemical analysis, can you describe what that is?
That's called the sodium rhodizonate test. And that test is testing for lead. And to do that, I also take white filter paper, I spray it with acetic acid, and I iron it onto the clothing. And when I peel it off, I spray it with a solution of sodium rhodizonate solution that I created. I spray that on. I'm looking for a purple color this time. And my results showed that hole A and B were negative, hole D through H were negative, hole C and hole D through G was negative. The only positive holes I got were hole C and hole H.
Okay. Now, with respect to the positive tests, you talked about the transparency, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, just going back for a moment, I just want to show you page 17 of your notes. Now, this was with respect to which of the three chemical tests?
This is a result of the Grice test for nitrites.
That's looking for the color orange, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, can you explain what this notes page 17 actually reflects, how this was created?
Sure. After I do the test, I am left with that chemically processed paper, and it has some orange on it. So you could see hole C where I wrote, it looks like an upside down cross. That's the cruciform tear. And the little cloud-like shapes are the nitrite residues, which showed up as orange, little orange clouds on that piece of paper. And then I just made some notes about where the hood seam was and the flap, just to identify exactly where the hole was. And again, it's on a clear piece of paper, and I made this is just a photocopy of it. So when I was at the photo machine, I put the scale in there and scanned it.
Okay, so that notes page 17 would be reflecting the positive test for the presence of nitrate residues?
Nitrites.
Nitrates, okay. Now, with respect to notes page 18, is that also from hole C?
This is also from hole C, but it's the results of the lead test, the sodium rhodizonate test.
Okay, and does that reflect the presence of lead in the area of hole C?
Yes.
So we have the presence of nitrites and lead for hole C, correct?
Correct.
Now, given your visual observations, as well as the microscopic as well as the chemical tests that were performed, did you draw any conclusions in your report regarding hole C?
Yes.
And what were the conclusions you drew about hole C?
May I read it from the report?
Yes.
I'll paraphrase, and it says, hole C exhibits the physical characteristics of a bullet hole produced when the muzzle of a firearm is in contact or near contact with the garment when discharged.
Okay. Now, contact or close contact, does that have a meaning in the trace evidence gunshot residue world?
Yes. Typically, the distance determination is conducted by the ballistics unit in conjunction with my notes and the residues that I found. But a contact or near contact shot is typically, it's easy to determine, and the scientists are allowed to determine. That's the only distance that they're allowed to determine.
Okay. So if a pattern or presence of gunshot residues did not exhibit that type of pattern, and it exhibited something like more of a distance, could you do a distance determination in order to draw conclusions on other items? Potentially.
Let me see if I'm answering your question properly. If there are enough nitrite residues that I find, and it forms a pattern, then the ballistics unit will take that information and do some test shots with the weapon and the ammunition in question and compare the two. And they determine the distance, if it's any further away than a contact shot.
Okay. So you talked about hole H as well previously, correct?
Correct?
And you did have positive results on 2 of the chemical tests for hole H, correct?
Yes.
Was there some discussion of potentially doing a distance determination regarding that hole?
Yes, there was.
And ultimately, was it decided that the state police would be unable to conduct that distance determination?
Yes, there were residues on it, but not enough for the ballistics unit to determine a distance.
Okay. Now, with regard to hole C that we just discussed, was there a need for a distance determination to be done based upon your observations and your conclusions?
We did not need the ballistics unit to make that determination because we were able to make that determination ourselves.
Was that based upon the chemical testing?
It was based upon the cruciform tearing.
Okay. And did the chemical testing, did that do anything to corroborate or confirm your observations regarding that cruciform tearing?
I did not need to do a chemical examination to determine that distance. I did anyway. That's just how I am. I just do everything.
Okay. So what you're saying is that based upon your visual examination of hole C, you could have drawn that conclusion?
Yes, I could have stopped there at the visual.
But you didn't, correct?
But I didn't.
And then you did all the testing, both visually, microscopically, and chemically?
I did.
Okay. And ultimately, your conclusion with respect to hole C was that, can you say that again?
It exhibits the physical characteristics of a bullet hole produced when the muzzle of a firearm is in contact or near contact with the garment when discharged.
And when we talk about the garment, we're talking about New Jersey State Police item number 27, correct?
Correct.
Now, with respect to the testimony you've given regarding your analysis, your observations and the like, do you give that testimony based upon your training and experience in the field of gunshot residue analysis?
Yes?
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Cross?
So, good morning.
Morning.
So it's the tearing itself that allows you to make the determination that it's a near contact or near contact shot? Do I have that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Does it matter what the garment is made of?
It does matter. I've seen multiple near contact shots, and depending on the fabric content, it may rip differently. Yes.
Okay. What's caught, like, the garment's tearing because a metal object is going through it at a very high rate of speed, right?
Yes.
Okay. And obviously the bullet is spinning as it's traveling through
Yes.
the air. Is that, like, why is it that close up you're saying you can observe tearing that's unique to the gun being fired from that distance versus, let's say, 10 inches away?
Yes.
Why would that be the case?
Contact or near contact shots are when the muzzle is so very close or touching the fabric, and it's the explosion and the force of that coming out of the weapon. It's such an explosive force that causes the ripping because it's so close.
Now, obviously, as the weapon gets closer, there's going to be a higher concentration, we would imagine, of these nitrites and residues on the garment.
Yes.
And there's a method for, it sounds like there's a method for confirming their presence on the garment. Is there a method for quantifying their presence?
We don't do that. There's so many moving parts per se. Sometimes we don't find residues, and that is because there could be an intervening object, or the wind pushes the residues away, movement of the gun, the type of ammunition. There's so many different things. With the contact shot, because it's so close to the target, that typically we don't find residues because it's all blown right through. But if there's movement to the fabric, or the fabric's softer, or it's just right off the garment, we sometimes see the residues like we did in this case.
Okay. So, sometimes there's tearing that makes it appear to you that what you're looking at was a contact or near contact shot.
Correct.
Sometimes there's these residues, nitrites, present on what you believe is a contact shot. Yes. Sometimes there aren't.
Correct.
So it's not the existence of the residues then that necessarily confirm the contact shot.
Not necessarily.
It's actually what you're interpreting in terms of a pattern of ripping of the material?
Typically, yes. Mhm.
Now, I think you mentioned that various things can impact the amount of residues that are left on a garment, but in terms of the actual firing of the gun, is the length of the barrel relevant?
Yes.
Is the diameter of the barrel relevant?
Yes.
Is the caliber of the weapon relevant?
Yes, it is.
There was also going to there was talk. It sounds like that there was going to be a potential endeavor to conduct a distance determination on, I believe it was hole H of the garment, right?
Yes.
And the item was resubmitted to the laboratory for that purpose.
Correct.
Along with the item, the jacket, there were 2 Sig Sauer pistols submitted.
Is that a question? I don't.
Yeah.
Oh, were there?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I can't recall.
Okay. Judge, I'm going to approach with D-123.
123?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Just showing you this. You recognize that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and you know what it is.
Yes.
What
yeah.
is it?
This is an evidence receipt with the same laboratory number on it, C1810138, with item number 27.
Okay. Could you just referring to this page though, could you just look at this synopsis section for me?
Sure.
Just read that to yourself.
Okay.
Okay. I'm just going to take that back. So, in this evidence received for the resubmission of the jacket, we see it mentions several other pieces of evidence, correct?
Correct.
That are to be considered along with the submission of the jacket. Is that right?
That's right.
And that included not 1, but 2 Sig Sauer pistols. Is that right?
Okay, that's what that says, yes.
And also a .38 caliber silencer. Right?
That's what that says, yes.
Okay. Question is, do you know why, or maybe you requested this, maybe you didn't, but do you know why there were 2 Sig Sauer pistols requested? You don't know?
No, I'm not involved in that portion of the examination.
Okay. Is it your understanding that two weapons manufactured by the same manufacturer, same make, model, firing the same caliber, would produce similar patterns of residue?
I would have no idea. The testing of the weapons by the, the ballistics department would handle that in conjunction with the scientists. But I had no I have no, no understanding of those weapons.
Okay. And so, if we can't make a distance determination regarding any of the other, the holes you mentioned, A, B, or D through H, that we don't really know, we can't really make any statements about how far away the weapon was when it caused those perforations in the jacket.
No, cannot.
And so that could be a foot away, or it could be 20 feet away. See if there's a little arrow down here.
I see the arrow.
Everything you examined on this jacket was in the hood or upper shoulder portion, is that correct?
Let me refer to my notes. I'll look at the. Yes, that is what I'm seeing.
Okay. Are there, in your field, just so I understand, are there laboratories that would try to quantify the amount of residues on a garment for purposes like distance determination or purposes like, determining the orientation of the shooter, things like that?
I would believe so. I know there's studies now on quantifying, but I don't have the knowledge of the labs that do that.
Okay. So it's not the state police.
We don't do that.
And the state police also has, I think, in your CV, you mentioned that you began as a glass examiner.
Yes.
Okay. But you were also trained in footwear and tire impressions.
That's correct.
Okay. And so footwear would be determining if maybe a print matched a particular shoe.
Yes.
And then tire impressions would be if a scene is found and there's different kinds of tire impressions, maybe you could look at photos of those to determine what vehicle might have made them?
Yes.
Okay. Is that something that the lab still engages in, the state police?
We still do that, yes.
Okay, thanks. I have no further questions.
Redirect.
When we talk about footwear impression and we talk about tire impressions, is it fair to say you need a pattern, an identifiable pattern in order to compare one tire to a tire track or one shoe to another shoe?
Yes.
Can I just have slide notes, page 9, if I could, just briefly? Right there. Now, you recognize that, right? You talked about that earlier?
Correct.
Now, that, the area of white in that photograph, is that the area where you discussed the cruciform tearing?
Yes.
Okay. And again, did you describe that whole C as exhibiting signs of cruciform tearing that you called a textbook example?
Yes, in my testimony, in my notes, I called it a stellate tear. So it could be called a stellate tear, meaning a star, or cruciform, meaning a cross or an X.
And you said that as depicted in notes page 9, would be a textbook example of cruciform or stellite tear.
Yes, it is.
That would be indicative of contact or close contact between a muzzle of a firearm and the object, number 27, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Murray?
No, Judge, thank you.
All right, you can step down. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to give you a quick break right now before we start our next witness, give you a chance to stretch. We've been doing this for an hour, and then we'll come right back out. All right, thank you.